Sacred 2 Remastered is releasing tomorrow, November 11th, so today I'm going to give you my review of the game. Special thanks to THQ Nordic for providing me with an early copy. As always, my thoughts on the game are my own and not influenced by any outside source. Now, to start off, this is a remaster only and not a remake. For anyone that has played the original Sacred 2 from 2008, this is a remaster of the Gold Edition from 2012, so it has all of the content but with some updated visuals. Everything else in the game remains the same as it was previously, like the story, content, and characters. Sacred 2 Remastered is an action RPG in the same vein as Diablo or Path of Exile. You start by choosing one of 6 characters, as well as if they serve the dark or the light, and what god they worship. This all relates to what special abilities you can access in the game. The main story, based on the initial cutscene, is that magic known as T-energy has begun leaking all over the world, causing monstrous creatures to emerge, and it is your job to basically put a stop to this. Quick note, I do have a goal of reaching 30,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so if you like what you're hearing, then consider subscribing to the channel. Now, I didn't get very far into the game, only partway through the first Act 3 mission with the orcs, but that's because there is a ton of stuff to do. Side quests seem to pop up every 2 steps, and it made me discover a bunch of areas before even starting the main quest. I thought I was covering a lot of ground until I looked at the map as a whole, which was huge. I looked up online out of curiosity about how many quests were in the game and found out that there were over 600 quests in total. This is a game that you can easily spend hundreds of hours in and still not even do everything. That doesn't include playing as different characters, different difficulty settings, or even hardcore permadeath mode. So one thing we know already is that Sacred 2 Remastered has a ton of replayability. In my time with the game, I tried out 3 different characters, the Seraphim, the Temple Guardian, and the Druid. Each of them were fun to use, but I made the switch between them because I personally love to play as ranged characters in these kinds of games. I got stuck around level 15 with the Temple Guardian because I wasn't doing enough damage to enemies anymore. This was not due to the game getting more difficult, it was from me not understanding how some of the mechanics really worked. This is one of the flaws with the game in my opinion, which is a product of age. There are some tutorial side quests in the game, but if you skip them, there really isn't any place to look up the meanings of items or mechanics without having to go online and look up stuff about the original game. This was frustrating because I realized that after 6+ hours on the Temple Guardian character that I had made so many mistakes. I started again with the Druid and started using runes and combat skills properly, and it was a night and day experience. This game really relies on using its mechanics correctly, so it's a shame that there's not very much explanation in the game. I do want to mention the enemies in combat as well. There is an absolute ton of enemies for you to fight that will respawn frequently. There were times where I feel like I'd have to fight off what seemed like 15+ enemies at once. It was kind of chaotic, but in a good way. If you're properly leveled and use the mechanics correctly, then these kinds of fights aren't too much trouble. One big stopping point I had though with the enemies was the rock monster boss. It has a shield that will regenerate itself if you're not doing enough damage. When I first fought him, I wasn't aware of this and thought that the game was broken since it looked like the health bar was blank. Only found out later online that it was a shield and you just have to keep hitting him and it will eventually go down and reveal the health bar. This ties back into what I was talking about before with things not being explained very well in the game. One of the big changes over the graphical quality was the UI changed completely over the original. Menus were overhauled and icons on the screen were changed to make the game more controller friendly. The original Sacred 2 did not have controller support on PC, so this is a really nice addition in my opinion. Using keyboard and mouse on the remaster works just fine as well with all the shortcuts and mouse clicks, but personally it feels a bit better with a controller, but that's just me, either way is a good option. Now, a big thing you may notice while playing the game is that there are definitely some issues with it. Characters getting stuck on objects, enemies not being able to be hit when standing behind a dead body, and some random teleports of your character or the enemies around you. These things I believe were also present in the original, so keep that in mind when trying this one out. When fighting enemies, most games have you attack the nearest enemy to you and switches to others when they get close, or it's a directional based and you attack everything in a certain direction. In Sacred 2, this is not the case. You do start by auto-targeting the closest enemy, but more often than not, the target would switch to a different enemy and display their health while you're still hitting the first enemy. This made it to where I had no idea who I was attacking or how much damage I was actually doing. In order to change targets, I had to stop combat completely, move around until the enemy I want was targeted, and then start fighting again. Overall, I did have a really fun time playing the game and would go back for more, but the game does show the age of the original and lacks some of the quality of life improvements that modern games in the genre have. I give Sacred 2 Remastered an 8 out of 10 due to the amount of content that's available for you and the fact that it's not even a fully priced game at $20 on PC and $30 on consoles. However, the lack of gameplay and quality of life improvements do hold it back just a bit. Did you play the original Sacred 2 and are you going to pick up the remaster? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to see more content, then make sure to like and subscribe and check out my other socials linked in the description to not miss out on anything. Thanks for watching. See you next time.